Welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we are going a little post-apocalyptic.
Yes, today we are seeing Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
So the Mad Max franchise is one of those Gen X franchises that we never saw.
The first three movies are known as pure 80s machismo classics, and they star a guy we're not going to talk about for reasons.
But they're also very much the biggest progenitors of the post-apocalyptic genre, to the point that it's been parodied up the wazoo so many times, from Rick and Morty to Miracle Workers to SpongeBob SquarePants to The Amazing Digital Circus. Mad Max has become kind of synonymous with what a post-apocalyptic story needs to look like for some people.
And then about 9 years ago, we got another installment into the Mad Max franchise with Mad Max Fury Road.
2015, the year we got peer pressured into seeing some of the best movies of the year.
Yep.
It was that and Mission Impossible 5. But either way, Mad Max Fury Road was a movie that we were not really into at the time. Well, we weren't into it until we heard everyone saying amazing things about it, until we were like, all right, we got a free weekend, let's go see this, and we were blown away.
Yes, so much so that we now are going to see the next movie in the franchise after a 9-year period, and now we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff.
So, first of all, the director is, once again, as is with every Mad Max movie, George Miller, a former Australian doctor who is probably best known to people of our generation for being the man behind the two Babe movies and Happy Feet. And we're just going to say the controversial opinion out loud right now. We hate Happy Feet.
Happy Feet sucks.
It's boring, it's preachy, and for a movie where Robin Williams plays two completely different comedic side characters, it's amazing how they make him do even less comedically than Bicentennial Man. Unrelated side note, Bicentennial Man sucks for a lot of the same reasons. But we won't hold that against George Miller because we know we're very much in the minority on that one, because a lot of people like Happy Feet.
Too many people like Happy Feet. Holy fuck, you won an Oscar for Happy Feet. Why?
But obviously his return to form after that was Mad Max Fury Road, a movie that was a fantastic action movie built around a gigantic chase scene with a plot so simple that the literal turning point of the movie was when they decided to turn the truck around and go back the way they came.
Granted, the behind the scenes of the film is also just kind of a very interesting story, given that it's like a decade. It took them a decade to make it, from getting derailed by everything from 9/11 to a literal act of God rainstorm on the Australian desert that brought life to a desolate wasteland.
And now here we are, another decade later, and we're finally getting the movie that they wanted to make when they made Fury Road.
Yes, originally this idea was, or at least an idea of a Furiosa movie was on the table when they wanted to make Fury Road, that they would make these two movies back to back. But that was back in 2010, and then a lot of other stuff happened. And then after Fury Road, a lot of legal stuff happened with George Miller and Warner Brothers that caused a lot of delays on this movie. Then, of course, we had the pandemic, which caused even more delays, especially because George Miller was in the middle of filming a movie when the pandemic hit, so he had to finish that.
His dream project about genies and Tilda Swinton and all kinds of weird stuff, and Vince Gill, but not that Vince Gill. We've heard mixed things, if we've heard anything about that one.
Yeah. But still, this time around, we do not have Charlize Theron or Tom Hardy.
No, this time around, the big stars are Chris Hemsworth, and playing the role of Furiosa, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes. And we've said some nice things about both these actors before, and it's very interesting this time around because this is our first time talking about Hemsworth, where he's the villain.
We have very rarely talked about Hemsworth when he wasn't Thor, and the few times that we did talk about Hemsworth when he was Thor were for movies that people really didn't care for. Still think Ghostbusters 2016 is decent.
But it's going to be interesting because this is a fun. Because now we kind of get to see the third of the big three Avengers playing the antagonist of a movie.
And along with it, Anya Taylor-Joy making her next big franchise jump, as she now is taking on the role from Charlize Theron.
Yes.
Supposedly they were going to go with Charlize Theron originally, with de-aging her to make her play age-appropriate characters throughout the scene. But then the things got long enough, and Charlize Theron did not have a good time on Fury Road.
Neither did Tom Hardy or a lot of people on Fury Road, but that's a whole other thing. Again, the story of making Fury Road is interesting, but...
They didn't have a good time, but their stunt doubles sure did, because they got engaged a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, but more importantly, this time around, we're doing a younger Furiosa, because this is a prequel.
And prequels are not something that tend to be well received by a lot of people.
We've given our beef as to why prequels have a little bit of a difficulty watching, just because if you know the story that this is a prequel to, then you kind of know certain events that are going to happen.
Especially when certain filmmakers and even just writers in general just decide, okay, now that I have established certain elements of this character, I'm going to cram in as many Easter eggs as I can. Like, oh, did President Snow harbor any ill will towards Katniss because when the last time he saw his girlfriend was when she was going to pick Katniss root? Yeah, that's the kind of thing that happens in prequels.
And we've enjoyed a lot of prequels, and we've even with those beefs in the way, like we did enjoy to an extent the last Hunger Games movie, and we did have enjoyed Solo, A Star Wars Story, and Rogue One, and
a bunch of other stuff that you would consider prequel. But from what we've heard, this is amongst one of the best of prequels. We don't know much about this because, well, it's entirely possible that this is like Fury Road, where it's just another movie that's just a bunch of crazy action scenes with the loosest form of a plot holding it together.
And we went into Fury Road pretty blind as well.
Yeah, like we said, we had no
interest. Like, everybody was seeing the Comic-Con trailer, and every trailer that came out, everybody was like, this looks awesome, gonna be first in line to get tickets, and we were like, okay, we're not into this franchise, so we're just not gonna try jumping into it.
And then every critic that we were following at the time was talking about how amazing it was, how it was one of the greatest movies ever made, and if there was any justice in the world, it would have been nominated for a bunch of Oscars. And we kept hearing it, and kept hearing it, and kept hearing it.
And then eventually we had a free weekend, and we were like, fine, we will go see it. And then we had to go out of our way to see it, because our regular movie theater did not have it playing anymore.
And you know how long 9 years is? The movie theater we went to instead is not even open anymore.
No, it is getting torn down and being replaced by apartments.
That's not important.
Except support your movie theaters, for God's sake.
But the thing about it is that, along with that, Mad Max was also up against Pitch Perfect 2 that weekend, and everyone thought, okay, this is counter-programming. We've got the low-budget feminist movie directed by a female filmmaker. It's a low-budget comedy. Everybody's gonna like this because the first one did well, and then we got the big budget male machismo violent action movie where everybody's punching each other, and then it turned out that Mad Max was also a feminist movie.
And this one will also probably be a feminist movie, but we'll talk more about that later.
I think we should just kind of go in with our expectations as they are, and hopefully come out the other side well aware of what we have seen. We'll see you after the jump. Okay, so if you liked Fury Road, and to my knowledge that's about almost everybody who saw Fury Road, I think you're going to really like this.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. I wouldn't put it above Fury Road or even on par with Fury Road, but it's still pretty good.
It's got a lot of the stuff that made Fury Road what it was, but it's also got this thing that Fury Road doesn't have, which is a plot.
It is a lot less of an intense action sequence. There's a lot of long stretches without action in it, which is kind of a point in the film's favor.
And so let's get into the actual meat of this. So Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa really falls right into the exact same kind of heroine role that Charlize Theron played in the original version of this.
Although the one difference being, she spends most of the movie not saying a word.
And that's really something that George Miller has been building on with his protagonist. I don't know if this is a thing with the other Mad Max movies, and it was certainly a thing that he did from time to time in Happy Feet and Babe, where it was just like, I'm gonna let what's actually happening in the story just dictate itself.
Yeah.
Without letting dialogue spell out everything.
Not to say that there isn't great dialogue in there. There's a lot of great Shakespearean style soliloquies in here.
Mixed in with the insanity that is just people saying random slang terms for whatever it is they're talking about in this weird post-apocalyptic hellscape.
Whether or not that is Australian slang or just post-apocalyptic slang that George Miller made up, you may never know. But
you call us ignorant Americans. But let's get into the real big part of this. Chris Hemsworth is nothing like we have ever seen him before.
His portrayal of this character he is having the time of his goddamn life.
Dementus, the character that he is playing, who goes through like 6 name changes throughout the entirety of the movie. But Dementus, a character who definitely lives up to his name, is Chris Hemsworth playing a completely different character than we've ever seen. This sociopathic, gleeful, nihilistic monster who, even in the face of his own demise, just hits it with deep, angry acceptance.
Yeah, he is insane on a level that's all Mad Max bad guys really are at some point or another.
The difference between him and Immortan Joe is obviously that Immortan Joe is this more calm, in-control guy, whereas Dementus wants to watch the world burn if it's not under his feet.
There is not a tactility to him. He is entirely just watch the world burn, even if it means that I burn with it.
He is an agent of chaos, and I love every second of it. And I also love the fact that they put Chris Hemsworth in a crazy person beard and gigantic prosthetic nose in an attempt to make it look like he's not sculpted by the gods themselves.
Doesn't work, because Hemsworth gonna Hemsworth.
I mean, deep down you remember that it's Chris Hemsworth, but also he's so deep into this unassuming character that you almost forgets that that's Thor sitting on screen acting like an absolute sociopath.
Yeah.
And I also love Tom Burke as Furiosa's mentor of sorts, Jack, who I almost love the fact that he's just as altruistic as he appears to be at first.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point where there's a sudden turn. And yeah, I know this is the exact same thing I said last time we did an R-rated Anya Taylor-Joy movie by an acclaimed director, but it's still nice to see that sometimes they'll remember, sometimes people aren't all bad. Sometimes someone actually can have altruistic motives.
Yeah. And it's a lot of intensity in this movie, just seeing where they can take the character and where Furiosa came from as a character, because she came from a very dark and depressing place, and her origins of it all make sense.
I mean, from the moment you see them at the beginning in their Hobbit clothes all the way down to the part where we link up with where Mad Max Fury Road starts, we are given the ride of a lifetime. And of course, there's also the fact that this is a prequel, and as a prequel, it doesn't fall into a lot of the same traps that certain prequels do, where it will be like, oh, there's the trademark weapon. Oh, there's the trademark catchphrase. There's the thing that they say in the movie that you're now understanding a bit better, where the cinematography and the acting will just kind of draw all the attention to it. There's like 2 moments like that. One where Furiosa appears to get the shotgun that she had as a sidearm in the first movie, and one where we get a cameo that I will not spoil.
Yeah. Not that the cameo really impacts the film in any way, shape, or form.
But those are 2 little moments where that's the prequel stuff. Nothing else from there.
Otherwise, you could watch this without watching Fury Road, and you would pretty much understand everything that's going on.
But then again, the fact that Fury Road exists also gave it the ability to go deep into the mythology that they created for Fury Road. Like, you don't need to know who Immortan Joe is going in, but it does help when you see him actually appear as a major character in this. I mean, the weirdest thing about watching this and Fury Road back to back is suddenly you're rooting for Immortan Joe to actually come out on top in this.
Yeah. But it's interesting to just be telling this side of the story and to be seeing these characters in a certain way. And it's a lot of just insane, not even as insane as Fury Road, but just a different kind of action than we saw in Fury Road.
Yeah, it feels like they've expanded the action sequences to be essentially bigger in some ways, but also remembering that this is supposed to be a step backwards from Fury Road.
And ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see where George Miller takes it next. I mean, the man's in his 80s and he's making movies like this.
I mean, this is the most insane movie by someone's grandpa you will probably ever see.
A lot of the same crew from Fury Road is back, including costume designers, production designers, and of course he brought his wife back to edit the movie.
It's just this fantastic movie that just kind of fits everything together like a Swiss watch. It's well put together. George Miller clearly knows how to find order in the chaos. And as far as they can show, this is one of those movies that really understands what people came to see, and it just pushes forward with that.
Wherever the Mad Max franchise goes next, we'll see what happens. Obviously, right now, George Miller has said there's more he has more stories to tell. From an interview I saw of him the other day, he hinted at the idea that there's like a novella that he's going to be doing, written taking place a year before Fury Road.
He's also talked about the idea of doing a video game by Hideo Kojima.
Yes.
So, who knows where the franchise will go next. For right now, this is what we got, and you know what? I'm happy with seeing this. And maybe one day we'll see the other Mad Max movies.
We'll see what happens.
Maybe. But for right now, that's it. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to tune in next time when I hate Mondays. Bye.
Bye.